Here comes Dr. Mosconi. Wait for it. Here she comes. There she
We
is.
made it! Good morning.
Good morning. I'm always so nervous getting on here because I'm like, how does it work? I don't know. There's so many things. Will it actually work? But it's working.
I'm so
Hello.
glad you're handling this.
No, don't be. No, we should just be lucky that it worked. I should never be handling this. Ah, hi.
How are you? How are you
I'm doing,
guys?
I'm doing okay. We're doing okay. I feel, we're
Good.
fortunately, very lucky in this situation. So we're hanging
Yeah.
in. We write from home. We've got health and food, knock on wood. So we're good. How are you doing?
Yeah. We are not at home. This is not my home. We left New York a month and a half ago, which has been really hard for me. I'm a homebody,
Yeah.
so not being home is really hard. But New York was hit so hard
Yeah.
that we were like, with a young kid and elderly parents, it's just better to maybe leave for a little while.
Yeah,
But
totally.
again, like you said, we're incredibly privileged and fortunate that we can do that.
Yeah.
The only thing is that it's been raining steadily for a month and a half.
Uh, that's
Ah!
tough. I know in LA we've had a lot of rain, which, normally it's like, okay, great, it's raining in LA. Let's be happy we're getting any rain at all. But there have definitely been a few days where I'm like, can it just
Just
let
one
the sun
day is
shine?
gone. Just one day.
Now we're sunny, so it's good. But
Yeah,
I know it's such a wild
yeah.
time. All right, before we go any further, I'm going to introduce. I think people are still joining, but let me just dive in here because I know we have limited time, and I know people are going to have a lot of really good questions. So, um, welcome everyone. I'm
Okay.
so excited for today's conversation. I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to read all these things because you've done so many amazing things. I want to get it all right. So, okay, so Dr. Mosconi is here with us today. She is I'm just going to read it. She's the director of the Women's Brain Initiative and associate director of the Alzheimer's Prevention Clinic at Weill Cornell Medical College at New York Presbyterian Hospital. She also serves as an associate professor of neuroscience in neurology and radiology. She is also it's so crazy. She's also an adjunct faculty member at the Department of Psychiatry at
Nice.
NYU School of Medicine and the Department of Nutrition at NYU Steinhardt School of Nutrition and Public Health. She has a PhD in neuroscience and nuclear medicine. She's a certified integrative nutritionist and holistic healthcare provider, and she's published over 100 peer-reviewed papers. So
Yeah.
you are such a rock star. We are so lucky
Ooh.
to have you, not just today, but in the space of brain health and specifically for women who,
Yeah.
as we have learned over the past recent years, are disproportionately affected by this disease. And also, the good news is that there are things we can be doing about it. So, of course, you've written this tremendous book, which is a New York Times bestseller. Cool. It is, of course, the XX Brain, the groundbreaking
Yes.
science empowering women to maximize cognitive health and prevent Alzheimer's disease. Big stuff. Um, Thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining us. Maybe we
Thank
can
you for
just
having me.
I mean, you're part of HFC. You're on our scientific advisory board,
Yes.
and
Thank
you do
you.
so much. And in these days where people feel overwhelmed just by health in general, it feels maybe a little weird to sort of be like, wait, should we also be thinking about our brains? We're just trying to survive right now. But the truth is, living a brain healthy lifestyle seems to increase our immunity and our immune systems, which of course is really healthy these days. And we'll get to that. But before we start, maybe we can just sort of go back to the beginning. How did this start for you? How did you decide to get into this particular area of medicine and research?
Yeah, it's been a long journey for me. I always wanted to study the brain. So I was born and raised in Florence, hence my accent. And my
Oh
parents
no.
are both nuclear physicists. Both of them. I lost you for 1 second.
Oh my
Was I
God.
still here? Okay. So my parents were both
I,
nuclear
it
physicists.
got a little, yeah.
Yeah. And I really wanted to do something brain related. And when I started my PhD is when my grandmother started showing signs of cognitive deterioration. And within just a few years, all the women in her family developed Alzheimer's disease. Basically, she was one of four siblings, three sisters and one brother. And all three sisters actually died of Alzheimer's disease, whereas the brother did not,
Mm-hmm.
even though they lived to the same age.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, initially, she lived basically next door to us, and my mom was the primary caregiver, and there was so much confusion and uncertainty, and is it going to happen to me as well? How much is genetic? How much is not? So I really wanted to understand if it was just my family or if it was
Mm-hmm.
part of a bigger picture. And it turns out that indeed the prevalence of Alzheimer's is higher in women than in men, to the
Yeah.
point that the ratio is 2 to 1. So for every man suffering from Alzheimer's, because obviously it's not discounting the suffering that male patients really experience, but for every man suffering from Alzheimer's, there are 2 women. And I got so much pushback at
Wow.
every stage of my career because everybody would say to me, well, women live longer than men. And
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's disease is a disease of old age. So, of course, more women than men have Alzheimer's. It's just a question not even worth looking into. There's
Right.
nothing more to that. It's just aging.
Right.
And so much of my research has really been devoted to showing that it's not just aging. Number one, women don't live that much longer than men. In the United States, the difference is about 4.5 years, not 20. But
Right.
most
Right.
importantly, Alzheimer's is not a disease of old age. We
Yeah.
now understand that it starts with negative changes in the brain years, sometimes decades, before clinical symptoms emerge. And my research has shown that women tend to develop Alzheimer's earlier than men do,
Mm.
which is terrible news for women. But we really need to talk about it. We need to have a good timeline to intervene.
Right. So I guess and maybe there's not an easy way to explain this. Maybe there is. How do women's brains differ from men's brains? Oh,
Say
did
that
you hear
again. I
that?
lost you for 1 second. How do?
Just is there a way to explain how women's brains differ from men's brains?
Yes. Yes, I believe so. So, of course, there are some differences in terms of shape and structural connectivity, but I think that the biggest difference is really in the way that our brains age.
Mm.
And a lot of research has shown that women's brains age differently than men's brains, and that our hormones play a really big role in the way that the brain ages, especially in women.
Mm-hmm.
So these differences are mediated by our hormones. And we know that hormones have different longevities. They have different lifespans. Men's hormones, like androgens, like testosterone, really decline very gradually over time, whereas women's estrogens really basically plummet in
Mm-hmm.
midlife during menopause. And
Right.
given that these hormones are really important for the health of the brain, basically there's almost an accelerated brain aging for women following menopause that could potentially also trigger Alzheimer's in women.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So crazy. So
I
I'm trying to
know.
think what I want to ask next because I have so many questions. So I guess my question is, we'll just dive into just acknowledging that, knowing that women's brains age differently than a man's brain.
Yes.
When should a woman start thinking of that? When should she at what age should she start taking care of her brain and living a brain healthy lifestyle?
Right. So as a woman, I've done a lot of thinking around this. And my conclusion is age 35.
Okay.
If we're learning more and more about the factors that trigger brain aging and make your brain go one direction or the other, especially
Mm-hmm.
for women, but it looks like as soon as your hormones start changing,
Mm,
which for some women could be 5 years, for other women it could be 15 years,
sure.
you really want to start optimizing not just your overall health, but also the health of the brain, because it looks, estrogen is a very stimulating hormone. It's a very energizing hormone, especially for the brain. So
Mm-hmm.
as it starts fluctuating, so does your brain, which is also
Yeah.
the reason that women experience hot flashes,
Mm-hmm.
right? For example, during menopause, but also during pregnancy. So
Mm-hmm.
many women literally have like, ooh, I don't,
Yeah.
I need to open all the windows even when they're
Yeah.
pregnant. So we know that there's an effect on our brains. And there are so many ways that we can optimize hormonal health as well as brain health. So it's really important, I think, to focus on both
So what
and
are
make
some
that a
of the
priority.
So what are some of the first steps, I guess, if we sort of dive in? So for me and some people watching us today have, come along with me as I've, taken my own personal deep dive into my brain health and,
Yeah.
and these are and my different risk factors, but then starting to eat brain healthy, limiting my sugar greatly, which now is really hard during this time, but it's happening.
Right.
Exercising, of course, trying to exercise still. So, what are some of the steps, not just that women at 35 can do? Someone just commented, what can someone do at age 54?
Right.
So let's just sort of get into the different areas. So first, maybe, well, you just, where should someone start if they were going to do
Yeah.
one thing over the next month? Where should
Right.
they begin?
Right. Also, to clarify, I said age 35 as the age that you should start thinking about it,
That
right?
everyone should be
Then,
doing.
right, everybody should do it at all ages.
Yeah,
And the recommendations change a little bit depending on age.
sure.
But I would say, in my opinion, there are 8 pillars to Alzheimer's prevention in women.
Mm-hmm.
And the key steps are, well, I would say right now, stress reduction is a big
Mm,
one. We
okay.
know that stress really negatively impact the brain
Mm,
and that these effects are even worse for women. Because something
yeah.
that people don't talk about enough is that the main stress hormone, cortisol, works
Mm-hmm.
in balance with their estrogens. So if cortisol goes up, our estrogens go down. So
Mm,
it's really important to reduce stress and normalize your stress hormone levels to also improve the health of the brain as well as the health of the body overall. There are these studies, like beautiful studies done at the Mayo Clinic with like thousands of people
mm-hmm.
showing that chronic stress levels and high cortisol levels can really negatively impact memory already midlife,
Mm-hmm.
but also accelerate brain shrinkage only in women.
Only in women.
So only women. So
What do,
both
is there
men
a
and women.
scientific reason for that?
Yeah, the cortisol effects.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
cortisol goes up, it depletes your estrogens,
Mm-hmm.
and the hippocampus and your brain overall is really powered by estrogens in women. So if you lose this power, that
Mm-hmm.
makes literally your neurons start aging faster.
Hmm.
So there's a whole hormone brain
Interesting.
connection that we just don't really talk about enough, I
Interesting.
think.
So, I mean, I guess this is the $1 billion question. What do we
That's
do to
nuts.
de-stress? How do we,
Somebody said that's nuts. Yeah,
how do we,
I know. It's bad news all over. I mean, my
how do
research
we
is like, oh God.
how do we do that? How do we take steps to limit the cortisol that affects our estrogen? Is it? I guess it's a number of things, right? It's
Mhm.
meditation, it's exercise, it's
Sleep. It's another.
it's probably all the things. What
Yes,
what
I
are some
think there
things that
are.
you do? Is there any tricks that you have?
Oh, so I find that for me, the best strategy for me personally is yoga,
Mm.
which I've been doing for a long time. So I have my own personal yoga routine. And
Mm-hmm.
if I manage to get 30 minutes,
Uh-huh.
around 25, something literally clicks in my brain. Like I know that as soon as I'm in candle pose,
Yeah.
poof, my
Yeah.
brain feels better. And if I have the time again, I follow with a guided meditation. And I really love Jack Cornfield.
How long are those meditations?
Some are 10 minutes. Also, the Alzheimer's Research Prevention Foundation has a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful meditation from Kundalini Yoga that
Mm-hmm.
anyone can do. Is 12 minutes long. You can find it on their website and also in my book. I really laid out. They were very kind to share all the
Mm-hmm.
specific steps. And it's 12 minutes, and it's been shown in clinical trials to really reduce cortisol levels and improve
Mm-hmm.
blood flow to the brain, especially in women. So
Yeah.
it's something you might want to try. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
12
It's
minutes, so it's
interesting.
not like an hour.
Just we just lost my mom in February after close to 15 years, losing her to Alzheimer's. And, I would say in years 6 through 9, things got pretty dark for me. And I was really struggling with my own happiness and just extreme stress and depression and anger and all the emotions that come with, being a human, and started doing Kundalini yoga myself. and
Ah,
because it was recommended to me as a specifically stress reducing type of activity for your body, but also for your mind. And it really helped me. That specific type of work um, was, I would say, the beginning of turning it around for me, of sort of being like, I'm angry, I'm only angry, I'm only angry. Oh wait, I can be positive too. I can live with this. Pain is human. I can learn to grow from this. And so it really was really helpful. So that I can speak from experience has helped. Um, let's move on to some other things. One thing I know I have worked really hard on is sleep. Should we
ooh,
talk about that for a minute? So hard.
sure. Can I tell you one more thing I've been
Please?
doing
Yes.
for mood because I'm so excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was feeling a little bit kind of sad and bad mood
Oh,
overall.
frozen a little bit.
And so what I did was I got 85% dark chocolate. You melt
Mm-hmm.
it together with coconut oil, add
Mm-hmm.
raw cacao to the mix
Okay.
and raw honey.
Uh-huh.
You mix it and put it in the freezer. So it solidifies. It turns into a
Yeah.
chocolate ganache that is super dark. It's
Oh my
delicious.
God.
And within 20 minutes, I was a totally different person. I swear it works. I don't know if it's just for me, but try. I'm happy. I'll tell you exactly, what to mix and combine. But
We'll
there's a
we'll share
scientific
it on our
basis for
page.
that. Yes, there's a scientific basis for that. So
Yeah.
serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical in the brain,
Mm-hmm.
is made out of tryptophan.
Mm-hmm.
And raw cacao is one of the richest sources of tryptophan. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the best way to get the tryptophan up in the brain is to take it together with carbohydrates. So a little bit of honey really pushes it inside your brain. And the
Mm-hmm.
coconut oil makes it taste better, but
Mm-hmm.
also it's rich in saturated fat that
Mm-hmm.
slows down the uptake of theobromine from the chocolate to your brain.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
it's really,
Cool. Yeah,
I really thought about it.
I make a dark chocolate avocado mousse made with
Me
avocado
too.
and dark chocolate powder and coconut oil and and it's
Awesome.
delicious, no sugar,
Yeah.
and sort of I add blueberries, which of course are a brain healthy food. I heat up the blueberries sometimes and make it kind of mushy and warm,
Nice. Ooh.
and it's really really quite good. All right, I want to be conscious of our time so we can get to all of our questions.
Okay.
Um, um, oh God, there's so many things. What do I? Okay, so
Also, I just wanted to tell you I don't have a hard stop anymore.
okay,
So
okay.
if
So
we
we can
want to
go over a
just
little bit
talk,
if we
or
need to.
yes, yes,
Okay, so all right, never bear with us if we jump around a little bit. But someone just asked a question which I think is really important about trauma and its impact on the brain.
yes.
Everyone was a child at one time. I'm sure we all bumped our heads some more than others, of course. How does something like that play a role in brain health?
Oh, there is actually increasing evidence, and I'm not a psychologist, but there is increasing evidence that it really stays with you in ways that seem to be even more impactful for women. So
Mm-hmm.
childhood trauma really stays with you, and it can impact the way that your brain develops,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, which in turn really impacts the way that the brain at a certain age. So
Mm.
that's such an important thing to keep in mind to really nurture
Yeah.
our brains, not just from a biological perspective, which is what I usually focus on, right? Physiology, but also psychologically and mentally. And I find that meditation is such a good resource, as is therapy. I'm a huge fan
Huge.
of therapy. I find, there should be no stigma
Mm-hmm.
associated with going to see psychotherapy. This is such an
Yeah.
incredible resource that can really improve your health. So I would wholeheartedly recommend therapy
Yeah.
if anybody
Absolutely.
needs it.
Therapy changed my journey, and having a therapist is sort of my, sort of go to. I was just listening to an amazing Brene Brown podcast yesterday about how, we need to have the places we go for help for our stress
Yes.
and it can't always be our friends or loved ones, and having an outside trained person who knows how to listen
Professional.
properly, was so key to me, to my dad, who also relies so heavily on his therapist, which is so nice because it helped our relationship. I think once we
Oh,
both were
good.
like, hey, I'm going to ask a therapist how to handle this instead of each other, it really
Yeah,
helped navigate
yeah.
our situation. Okay, so some people have chimed in about the different pillars of brain health. Maybe why don't we go through just sort of an overview of the different pillars, and then, nutrition, sleep, etc. And then
Right.
we'll deep dive into each of those. Why don't we state those for everyone so everyone can know how to sort of direct their
Yes.
questions?
Sure. So one way that I find helpful, so I remember the 8 pillars, is to use this little sentence from Latin. I'm Italian, so forgive me for that. But it's mens sana, which means
Mensana.
mens sana. Yeah, thank you. Said it perfectly. Which means a healthy mind,
Hmm.
from Latin. You know the saying mens sana in corpore sano. Maybe only Italians know that, but it really means a healthy mind in a healthy body. And if you use the first 8 letters, which MENS,
Mm-hmm.
mens, sana, SANA, these are really perfect because M would be mental stimulation. We really need to keep our neurons firing at all ages because, and this is best done by learning something new and really challenging your brain to work the way it should, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
really learning is to your brain what exercise is to your muscles.
Hmm.
So, for example, let's say that you enjoy watching movies, of course, maybe sometimes you want to watch a documentary where you're learning something. You want to watch a TED Talk so that you
Mm-hmm.
can learn something new. Same for books. Instead of reading just like fiction, you might want to grab, you want to get a book that how to do
Oh,
things or increases your knowledge of a certain topic. Or if you want to play games,
mm-hmm.
which is such a good thing, right? There's this saying that if you're a chess player, playing more chess will not help you nearly as much as learning to play bridge or something else.
Interesting.
So that's, yeah,
That's
yeah.
yeah.
So that's mental stimulation. You really want to
Always on
train
my
your brain to
oh
learn new things.
yeah, yeah. I keep putting off that I'm a dumb American who can only speak English, and so I've been putting off um, that I'm going to learn another language, and maybe this time when we're all home is the time to finally begin. Perhaps we will start it. But I know that
Maybe that's
learning.
the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
learning a
sorry.
new language is great. That's a good,
Yeah,
or learning to
so
play an
hard.
instrument, learning to play
Hmm.
music. That's
Yeah.
also really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And even Seth and I, we took up pottery, and it's not like we're learning like chemistry things or learning a new language, but we are challenging our brains every day in figuring it out, and the different things, which has been a really great pottery for it's why my hands are dyed, by the way, everyone.
I was wondering.
Pottery. Everyone is like, "What's that?" Every time I do a Zoom, everyone's like, "Are you okay?" This is pottery. This is clay that has dyed my hands for the time being. But anyway, okay, sorry. We were going through the different pillars of brain health. Why don't we go back to those? So we had done learning. Um, uh,
Yes, and then E would be for exercise.
mm-hmm,
So everybody knows that exercise is really good for your body and your brain, but
mm-hmm,
not everybody realizes that it's even better for women, for women's
mm-hmm,
brains. So there's evidence that exercise can lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease even more in women than in men, which perhaps is because women don't exercise nearly as much as men do to start, for a number of reasons, from just not having time, having a career, very busy lives, having families, taking care of your parents sometimes. We just basically we don't have time. And so many
mm-hmm.
women deprioritize exercise. And I think it's really
Yeah.
important to clarify that you don't have to necessarily do high intensity interval training. It's not about running a marathon. It's about finding an activity that you enjoy and you can do consistently over time. And
Mm-hmm.
so for women, research says that it's really not that much about intensity as much as consistency and
Mm,
frequency. So right now, I think yoga is a fantastic thing that everybody can do at home. There are like a ton of
mm-hmm.
classes on YouTube that you can watch if you don't,
Silly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
personally, I plank because, so my daughter is 4.5 and
Okay.
she's been stuck at home with us for like a month. She's losing it completely. So I literally have 10 minutes. And so I plank for 10
Yeah.
minutes when I can't do anything else. And that's really good
But not like
exercise.
all at once, right? Do you hold a plank for
Hmm
10 solid minutes?
I
What?
hold the, yeah, yeah. Now
Wow.
I do. It took me a month and a half, but yeah.
That's
Well,
amazing.
the trick is to go up and down on your arms because otherwise my neck hurts and my
Mhm.
wrists hurt. So I go up and down on my arms and then I go on the side. And if I
Hmm.
do that, I effectively plank for 10 minutes
Right.
in different
Wow.
positions.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe we
if
can
you
get
if
a
you turn, it's doable.
yeah.
If you
Maybe
if
we
you
can get a
turn, it's
video
doable.
of you doing it that we can post.
Yeah, sure. I will do that for you.
Okay. Okay.
With
Okay.
my
So,
daughter jumping on my back.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and on exercise, obviously, God, I resisted it for so long. And Dr. Isaacson, our dear friend and
Yes.
your colleague, pushed me and pushed me for so long. And I was like, I hate it. I don't like it. I don't want to move my body. And now I'm one of those disgusting lame people who are like, I like exercise and I'm addicted and I want to do it. And it's not disgusting, it's cool, but like,
That's
I
great.
love it, I really do. And I've found, making my workout, I do Orange Theory, which is a high interval, high intensity interval training, and they have free videos online, that
Oh,
you can just leave
good.
home, and they, say they go grab a gallon of milk or whatever it is, the objects around your house to do the workout, and at home you can get your heart rate up, and there are so many things to do. Okay, so okay, exercise, what's next?
Yes. Next is nutrition. I find that diet is incredibly helpful because most people eat about 3 times a day, if not more.
Hmm.
So you have 3 times every day. You have three chances to really fill your body and your brain with the right nutrients,
Hmm.
or not.
Yeah.
So especially,
Or with pizza and macaroni and cheese.
yeah, and mac and cheese in a box, which I
It's so
found the
good.
other day. I was like, what is this? Mac and cheese in a box? Absolutely not. There are some nutrients that are known to be very helpful for reducing risk. They've been associated with a lower risk of Alzheimer's disease, but also stress reduction. And so I would stress the
Hmm.
importance of these right now, especially vitamin C and vitamin E and
Hmm.
polyunsaturated fatty acids. Right? If you can find salmon, that's a great tool to have. But so is avocado, like you were saying, or extra virgin olive oil. Those are the good fats. But also the antioxidant vitamins have a strong effect on the immune system. And also, if it's possible to find foods that are high in antioxidants, but also double up as anti-inflammatories and antiviral.
Like
I
what?
think this is
What are some of those?
onions,
Onions.
yeah, the spices, roots and spices. So onions, garlic, turmeric, sage, rosemary, cumin is a really
Hmm.
good one.
Okay.
And I have the whole list in the book, and who knew that it was going to be important?
Hmm.
So I have a whole table. Yeah, rosemary is a really important one. In I'll find more, but mostly really spices and herbs
Yeah.
and spices. I
It's interesting.
really have antiviral effects.
On that note, and I know this can be so personalized, so it's hard to sort of talk generally about it. But can you comment a bit on supplements? Because I
Yeah.
take a whole bunch of supplements.
You do?
I take a curcumin supplement. But I know that specifically for me, that is helpful because I know my own genes. So
Right.
if, say someone out there has not had the opportunity yet to figure out their specific genes, are there certain supplements that we can literally just go pick up or order off the internet these days, that would help, if we maybe can't get access to, fresh
Yes.
vegetables at this
Fresh
time,
fruit.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, I never take supplements and I just started. And I would recommend the
Mm-hmm.
antioxidants at this point. I think antioxidants, so my favorite one, if anybody wants to try, you can find it on Amazon. It's a liquid vitamin C that is mixed with
Mm-hmm.
bioflavonols and rosehip. And the brand is Dynamic Health. It's
Okay.
delicious, like 1 or 2 tablespoons a day mixed with water. And it helps me a lot. Like I notice a bit difference. I give it to my daughters. Vitamin E important
We'll
ones.
get
And B
this
vitamin,
to
very
you. I know
helpful
some of
for
this.
stress.
Oh, sorry, you cut off a little bit. Is it E vitamins or B vitamins?
You know what it is? It's the rain. It's the rain.
I,
It's raining and nothing
well,
works.
you know what we'll do is
I
we'll get some of these specifics and we'll type it up and we'll share it in a post for everyone. So some of these questions that people have asked for
Yes,
specifics,
great.
we'll write it all down. We'll share it. So don't worry if you're missing it now. Okay, so let's keep going.
Okay.
So we talked about nutrition. What's next?
Yes. And then stress, and we talked about stress.
Talked about stress.
And then the other S would be for sleep. Sleep is a big one. Ah, I think I lost you.
Can't sleep. It's so. How do I make it better? Oh, are you there? Is it working?
Yes,
I
yes,
see
I
you.
got you
Okay.
now. I'm
Okay.
so
Good.
sorry.
Okay.
This weather, I just
Okay.
can't do anything about.
Oh, it's fine. Everyone's bearing with it. We're in a moment where we just make it work. So we'll make it work. So sleep, it's, one of the hardest things to attain great sleep. So do you have tips that you offer to people to improve their sleep?
Yes, so I think disrupted sleep can happen for a number of reasons, and sometimes it's stress, sometimes it's hormones, sometimes it's social isolation.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many possibilities, and I think it really is important to identify why you can't sleep and
Mm-hmm.
then
Yeah.
look for a solution that really is specific to your own needs. So, one thing I came across in my research is that if the problem is that you're a 44-year-old woman and your progesterone is low,
Mm-hmm.
then taking vitamin C actually helps.
Hmm.
It really brings up the progesterone levels and helps support sleep.
Yeah.
And another supplement that is really interesting is from these little flowers that I have on the cover. These are
Mm-hmm.
red clover flowers, and red clover isoflavones have been shown to really improve the quality of sleep for women who can't sleep because of like hot flashes or night sweats.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's clinically tested in clinical trials, so I
And
feel comfortable recommending that.
is that something we can order offline? Okay.
Yes, on Amazon. Yes,
Okay,
they have
great.
it on Amazon and other health food stores. There's always chamomile tea or valerian
Yeah. Yeah.
tea with.
I've seen a few comments. I've talked about my sleep journey on this. I wear an Aura ring. There's so many trackers out there that you can wear to track your sleep. This is the one that I wear. And when I started tracking my sleep, I was getting terrible deep sleep.
Uh,
I literally my average was 23 minutes a night,
wow, God.
which is real bad for this thing.
Mm-mm.
And a ton of REM, ton of it. Um, and so I have really taken active steps, and I thought there's no way I can change this. And now I'm proud to say my average of deep sleep a month is an hour and 3 minutes. And
Okay.
I've done that from a few things which I think are somewhat actionable. One, which is I listen to a lot of white noise when I sleep. The slightest
Ah,
noise disruptions can disrupt your sleep. Number one.
yes,
Number
that's true.
two, I wear a sleep mask all night.
Me too.
I used to wait to put it on until it got bright out and at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, and I would stick it on. Why was I doing that? Like, there's again, disruptions happen all night long. So wearing it all night, those are the really simple ones. Oh, and then the third simple one is, which is hard. I say it's simple, it's hard, but it is simple, which is a consistent bedtime.
Yes.
Um, that was hard for me. Of course, I've gotten older during this journey, so it's easier for me to go to bed earlier. When I think when you're younger, it's much harder.
Yes.
But that is something that has made my sleep consistent, which I think has improved the quality of it. And then, of course, I've gotten this thing called a chili pad, which is it's a cooling pad. So I'm only 38. However, I know my own body and my numbers, and I'm already having deep night sweats and it's
Ah.
experiencing some of these things. And so the
Oh, you
difference,
should try this then. You should really try the isoflavones. I'll send you the link.
I cannot wait. I will 100% try it. Um, but having this chili pad, this cooling pad on my bed, which I keep to 63 degrees, I'd wake up shivering, but I'm not sweating anymore.
Wow.
Which is, I think, made a huge difference. So those are things that, it's hard. And also I'll actually go back to stress reduction, which is I find on the days that I do a lot of deep breathing, whether it's during pottery or actually meditating or doing yoga, I get better sleep, as crazy
Yeah.
as that sounds. So
No, well, it makes sense.
yeah.
I think because you relax your body and your mind can shut down more
Mhm.
easily.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure. I have this, my major problem, I think, is that my daughter is a night owl. She,
So
she
she's
just
awake
won't
and
go to bed ever. And I found this incredibly nice app with meditations for kids that if
mhm.
any parent is interested in trying it out, I'm happy to send you the link as well as a possible tool and resource. Two
Oh wow.
meditations and she's out.
Yeah. That's
Took me 4
interesting.
years to get to that point.
Wow, that's impressive. And big kids could probably benefit from them as well. So maybe I'll
But
check this out as well.
not that app. But
Different
other
one.
ones, yes,
Other
there are
ones,
some
yeah,
wonderful sleep meditations that
yeah,
they put me to sleep for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've hit all the pillars, right? Did we leave any pillars out?
Yes, avoiding toxins, I think, is an
Right. Yep.
important
Mm-hmm.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's more and more evidence that some environmental toxins can actually affect the brain. Again, more in women
Mm-hmm.
than not men. Because of their interactions with our hormones. So there are some compounds in plastics, especially in plastics, but a little bit everywhere in detergents, in your toothpaste. There's titanium for some. There's some toothpastes. The most common ones contain
Mm-hmm.
titanium dioxide for no reason whatsoever. Deodorants can be a problem as well, but mostly the things that we use to cook and heat
Interesting.
up food in. Yes, so the plastic, as you heat the plastic, those chemicals leak inside your food and then
Mm-hmm.
deposits in the fat of your body, especially in the breasts,
Mm.
which has been linked to an increased risk for breast cancer for sure, but also infertility, miscarriages, endometriosis, thyroid dysfunction, and a number of other hormonal issues in women. So I know that this is probably not the best time to go organic because it's hard for many to find food. Like we haven't
Yeah.
had any garlic in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But it's something to keep in mind that there are some products that are safer
Mm-hmm.
than others, and that plastic is always bad for you. So especially
Mm-hmm.
now that so many people are at home, you can actually use glass containers or ceramic and just wash them a little bit more often than just throwing stuff out. I think
Yeah.
it's a good health investment. Stay away
Yeah.
from plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing would be checkups, like medical checkups. Make sure that, you really talk to your doctor about managing any possible risk factors for heart disease, obesity, diabetes, especially insulin resistance and thyroid function in
Mm-hmm.
women, because they're big disruptors of hormonal and brain health. And also, I encourage all women to, if you want, come work with us
Mm-hmm.
at the Women's Brain Initiative. We have access to wonderful women's health specialists and OBGYN. But regardless of us, I always say it's really important to think of your health in a holistic way. The brain talks to your ovaries talk back to your brain. We can't go to a neurologist for one thing and OBGYN to another without the two people talking to each other. Right? It's really
Yeah.
important to think of you as a person,
Yeah.
not just a number of random organs that somehow magically become you. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We've just had an interesting, actually, I'm curious about, someone is asking about cast iron, cooking with cast iron, and that was on the fence.
Yeah.
Do you know about that? Is that a safe type of pot
So
to cook with, or
I
is the
looked
iron
into
in it
it.
not?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We have two cast iron pans. It really depends on the quality
Hmm.
of the pans. You don't want the iron to leak in your foods.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure, because
Yeah.
iron can be toxic in
Sure.
very high levels. So it's really about the quality of the,
And
what's
maybe
it
not
called, the
letting your
cookware.
maybe not letting your pan get too old so it starts to deteriorate.
That's for sure. One thing
Yeah.
is that I learned in Italy and in France, which, I grew up in between, um, you have to let it cool down before you clean it.
Mm,
And then now a lot of people don't do that. They just wash it when it's still warm.
right.
And that's when it starts kind of deteriorating. It starts like cracking.
Yeah.
And then the iron comes out
Yeah.
or the
Yeah.
cracks. So it's
Yeah.
important to, they take a lot of work. I mean, they're really good quality tools, but they require, they're high maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm going to ask one more question and then we're going to go. A couple people have asked about hormone replacement therapy, which I think is, something that women as we had two copies of the APOE4 gene. And she had a hysterectomy when she was 46 years old. And this was in 1997,
Wow.
and was put on hormones.
Wow.
Certainly, there's no way to know, but a hypothesis is that perhaps her early onset in her early 50s was due to, perhaps not being on the right hormones for her genetics. So, can you
That's a good question.
can you
So,
speak to, hormone replacement therapy, which is something that, becomes part of the conversation as we age?
yes, for sure. There's a lot of confusion around hormonal therapy, especially as related to brain health. There are very
Mm-hmm.
few trials that were done right. There are some trials that were not really done correctly. The women were too old to start with. They were given very high doses of hormones, left on hormones for life. So from the clinical trials, we know what not to do. So women who are more than 5 or 6 years post menopause
Mm-hmm.
do not get any brain advantage from taking hormones. In
Hmm.
fact, the hormones can make it worse. Yeah.
Hmm.
If you are less than 6 years post menopause, or even better if you start earlier, then hormones might be beneficial, especially in women who receive a hysterectomy and especially an oophorectomy, which is the surgical removal of the ovaries.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm thinking about what you were saying, Sharon, just now is that we know that having your uterus and more so the ovaries removed increases risk of dementia in women,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that nobody seems to be aware of. Like if you go to an OBGYN, to a surgeon, they don't know that
Mm-hmm.
by removing a woman's ovaries and in some cases the uterus at risk, the women are really left with a much higher risk of dementia later on in life. However, the risk is actually offset by taking hormones. So right now the thinking is if you do get the surgery, you want to actually start taking hormones as close as possible to the time of surgery and keep taking hormones until the natural age of menopause, which for most women is like 52, 53 in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like what you were saying, is that the response to hormones, as well as the response to any medication, really is in part genetically based.
Yeah.
And for hormones, it's also based on the immune system. So it's really an interaction of your genetics, like the ApoE genotype, like you mentioned. It looks like ApoE4 carriers might have a harder time metabolizing the
Mm-hmm.
hormones. So we really need to we just need to do so much more research and do
Yeah.
it right in the right
Yeah.
population of younger women, perhaps in perimenopause rather
Mm-hmm.
than waiting until postmenopause. We need to understand how the different genetic markers really play
Yeah.
a role, which is something we're trying to do right now. And I'm hoping that more and more scientists will really get on board
Yeah.
because obviously, you need a village. The more people look into that, and
Yeah.
the sooner we'll have good answers and good
Yeah.
solutions.
Do you think someone asked about getting tested for your APOE status? Do you think that APOE status plays a role specifically for women or just in brain health overall?
I would say in brain health overall, and especially for women.
Especially. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we know that the risk of Alzheimer's disease as related to the ApoE4 genotype is much higher for women than for men, which is also
Mm-hmm.
something that clinical trials are not really looking into. So if a woman has one copy of the ApoE4 genotype, the risk is as high as a man with two copies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a woman and you have two of the E4 alleles, your risk is
Yeah.
off the charts. And
Yeah.
that's something that we really need to address
Yeah.
more
For
in
sure.
detail and more specifically.
Yeah.
And also, if you are an
Do
APOE4
you, and
carrier
then I'm
and
gonna like,
you're a woman, I think what you really want to do is to be very disciplined
mhm,
with all the things that are in your control, like your diet, your exercise, your stress reduction, avoiding toxins, which seems to also be worse for APOE4 carriers,
yeah,
pollutants. So I think it's really about being more disciplined rather than
yeah,
panicking because
yeah,
of your genes.
right.
Yeah. I never got tested. I never got it tested.
No,
Mm-mm.
um, I find, some people ask me, weren't you scared? Are you scared? And I said no, because now I feel like I have something to act upon.
Yeah.
And I do feel better about only having one copy. And I'm, obviously fine talking about that publicly, because I believe in science and I believe in the great research that is surrounding this. And I know that if I take these steps, um, science is telling me that I can affect the health of my brain now. And so there's so much
Yes.
positivity and not just fear around it. And so
Right.
to me, in my personal opinion, it's such a personal choice, but for me, um, it was so important to know so I could make sure that I'm taking these steps and feel really positive about, that I'm taking these steps to do this work
Yeah.
for my brain.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I think that I think it's very personal. Like
yeah,
we have some patients who should not know
yeah,
their genetic information.
yeah.
There's
I
just
know. The thing is, if if I knew that I had a risk to have a gene that was scarier than the APOE4 gene, which there are, then
yeah,
perhaps it would be different. But because I know that I have power that comes along with that,
right.
it's less scary for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I find that it's also a question of motivation. Like the reason I didn't get my ApoE done, which I have to do now because I'm going to be getting brain scans as well,
Hmm.
it's just that I'm doing these things anyway.
Anyway, yeah,
So
yeah,
why would I want to scare myself or get worried about it?
right.
But now that I am getting tested, then I said, well, then I want genetic counseling
Yeah.
because I think it's really important with
Oh,
any form of
breaking up.
genetic testing to also get the counseling. Oh, sorry. I was saying
Yeah.
that for any kind of genetic testing, it's really important to get counseling. I strongly recommended
For
the
sure.
procedure. The right way to do it is genetic counseling prior to the test and after the test, and then
Hmm.
monitoring every 6 months for about a year and a half. So I strongly
What type
recommend
of
that. A lot
doctor?
of our patients, yeah.
What type of doctor? For people that can't get to New York and come see you, what people just in their hometowns all across America. What type of doctor should people be going to see to get this type of work and information,
For Alzheimer's prevention.
and to get APOE testing and genetic counseling, like you were just saying?
Right. So ApoE testing, you can ask your own doctor, your GP. I don't know if insurance would necessarily cover the test,
Hmm.
but your doctor can advise on
Okay.
that. One thing I do not recommend is to use 23andMe
Okay.
or other direct-to-consumer tests. I personally prefer CLIA certified labs
Hmm.
because we know how accurate the test is. You
Yeah.
will not believe how many people came to us and said, I did 23andMe and this is my ApoE status.
Hmm.
And we actually, no, I was not. We redid the test with the CLIA certified labs, which are the gold standard. And it was like, negative. And it happens so often.
Mm.
So often. So that's my recommendation to work with a physician who understands the genetics,
Hmm.
get counseling, which I have it in the book in the appendix. There's a link to the
Okay.
National Society of Genetic Counselors that
Okay.
you can book an appointment. I'm sure now they do it online,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. Probably. Okay.
And I think that would be a great resource. I know the Alzheimer's Association also definitely has links.
Yeah.
You guys have links too, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say was, okay,
Yeah.
we've got so much information that we've thrown at people these days. If you want more information, the XX Brain is available at www.lisamosconi.com/xxbrain. All of this is in here. We'll also share some of it, but really for all the information, it is in this incredible book here. I just wanted to let all of you know that, again, this feels like crazy time for all of us, and that is so normal. But it's always time to think about your brain because, again, caring for your brain helps your immune system, but also, as we talked about, stress and emotions. I saw a comment about how hard it is sometimes to get access to good therapy and support. And I wanted to let everyone know that HFC has expanded our online support during this time when people can't get out to connect with people. So you can visit wearehfc.org/COVID support. We've added some drop-in support groups, some other weekly webinars to learn more about brain health. So just join us there, always on this page, or send us a direct message and we can help. And just as a general, just because I think therapy is so important, there are so many resources online where you can connect with a therapist over the phone. There are sliding scales. It doesn't always have to cost $300 an hour. And there are so many resources to get mental, emotional help, because as you said, stress is such an important part of caring for our brains. And to be a human, it is natural to feel stressed, but there are also things that we can do to find happiness. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Is
you
there
so much. It was
anything,
so good to see you.
you too, is there anything else we should add before we say goodbye to everyone?
I would add that women's health really came out of all the advancements in women's rights. And right now, women's rights are really, once again, at the forefront of many conversations for both women and for men.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really the right time for women to demand accurate information about their own health and their own brains, because
Yeah,
really the more women demand scientifically validated information, the sooner we scientists will be able to really do the work and come up with solutions that actually help, not just for Alzheimer's disease, but also for women's brain health as a whole.
amazing.
And it's so important. It's so important for us scientists that people who are not scientists really go to the government or just talk about these issues so that the government, the NIH, becomes aware that
Yeah,
this is research that people want, because it's taxpayer money that really supports research. So I think everybody should have a voice and really
yeah,
clarify what their priorities are.
yeah, I agree. Use your voice. We've all got one if we're fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Thank you for using
amazing.
yours.
Well, it's the least I can do from here inside my house. So, all right. Well, thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Mosconi. So
you.
lovely to see you. Again,
It's good to see you.
get her book. Take care of your brain. Take care of yourself. Call your loved ones. Tell them that you love them. And have a wonderful day.
You too. They're
Okay.
asking if the interview is going to be available afterwards.
Yes, we're going to save it
Great.
and we'll post it. If I can,
Thank you so
manage
much.
to do this correctly now, which I think I can do.
I count on you. I wouldn't know. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Okay. Bye.
It's so good to see you.
You
Ciao.
too. Bye.